Hi everyone, I'm Let 'em Taters. You can call me Taters. In today's Power Index video, we're spying the covert cabinet, the secret Senate, the private parliament, aka the Illuminati, a groupthink initially called together by Tony Stark following the Kree-Skrull War, and originally consisting of Namor, Doctor Strange, Black Bolt, Professor X, and Mr. Fantastic. Now, Professor X isn't yet a part of MCOC, and I'll be omitting Mr. Fantastic so he can star in a video alongside the Fantastic Four. Therefore, the lineup for this video will be, in order, Iron Man Infinity War, Captain America Infinity War, and Namor receiving feature breakdowns, and sub-features for Doctor Strange, Black Bolt, his Queen Medusa, and in place of Professor X and Mr. Fantastic, the classic versions of Captain America and Black Panther, the King of Wakanda, a frequent location of the meetings. Let's start with the Infinity War pals, Tony and Steve. Iron Man Infinity War is a tech champion of the Control Counter subclass, and Captain America Infinity War is a science champ of the Defensive Utility subclass. Tony Stark initiated the first Illuminati powwow shortly after the modern Kree-Skrull War, which imperiled Earth with the intent to prevent any future alien threats. His great idea was for the group to confront the Skrulls and warn them to stay away from Earth. The Skrulls, whose homeworld was destroyed by Galactus, instead captured the Illuminati, experimented on them for the purpose of copying them, and would later invade Earth in one of the most famous comic storylines ever written, Secret Invasion. Tony led an escape and enlisted the aid of Steve Rogers to help protect against the imminent invasion. We're going to scrap the standard format and jump around a bit, starting with utility. But first, a clarification. As you know, Power Index bears no consideration for synergies, and a lot of Cap's utility comes from having other champs on his team. However, these aren't synergies. Rather, they're part of his signature ability, whose teammate requirement is simply any champion of a corresponding class. Alright, moving on. The Infinity Bros are utility machines, and most of each character's utility comes from their greatest comic attributes: Tony's technological genius and Steve's unrivaled leadership. Iron Man's Mark 50 suit is a nanotech wonder capable of redistributing itself into various shapes for attack and defense, including forming its hands into repulsor cannons on first, medium, and heavy attacks, and on second and fourth light attacks. Repulsor hits cannot be evaded under any circumstance, seemingly another anti-Peter protocol. Tony's like such an overbearing father figure. But further, intuited from battles against armored foes like Ultron and enemies capable of regeneration, Tony designed his heavy attacks to employ all three offensive nanoforms: repulsor cannon on the first hit, hammer arm on the second, which breaks one armor buff, and blade arm on the third and final hit, which blocks all enemy healing for a lengthy 16 seconds. And if Tony's getting his ass beat, once his suit's life falls below 15%, it enables an emergency defense mode, instantly forming 8 stacks of passive armor on opponent attacks, auto-blocking and parrying them, and generating a surge of power gain, 6.6% of max power per second until all armors expire or are removed, in preparation for a counterattack. Each armor throughout a fight also reduces opponent's power drain, steal, and burn effectiveness by 18%. Steve, respectful of Tony's ingenuity, but of the belief that strength comes from one's team, uses the vibranium vambraces gifted to him by the King of Wakanda to armor break his enemies on parry with a cosmic teammate, petrify for 25%, half of the potency of Void's petrify on parry with a tech teammate, and weaken the opponent by 10% on parry with the science teammate. Steve's vambraces, enhanced with the absorbing qualities of Black Panther's Mark II suit, accumulate kinetic potential charges at a 15% chance when struck, a 50% chance when blocking, and a 100% chance on parries or when stunned. He can store up to 5 charges at once, and with at least one charge, he nullifies unstoppable buffs, glances opponent attacks at a 100% chance against mystics and 30% against all other classes, ignoring crits, reducing damage by 50%, and applying minus 100% offensive ability accuracy, and his SB1 causes minus 100% defensive ability accuracy, bypassing evade, among other things. Both score a 4 out of 5 in utility. Now to practical DPS. Their attack and crit damage values mirror each other, in the 50th and 30th percentiles respectively, with Iron Man's crit rate notching the edge at a stellar 31%, 8% better than Cap's. And with Tony's advancements, he can double his attack on heavies, bringing his rating from this move to nearly twice Dr. Doom's value when factoring in its armor break. His SP1, which unleashes the blade arm once more and heal blocks for the same duration as his heavy attack, is unblockable and shocks the defender for equal to his base attack over 12 to 18 seconds, based on their power. And his SP2 and SP3 respectively apply Incinerate and Plasma DOT effects, ranging from 1.6 to 2.1 times the damage of his base attack, and are likely or guaranteed to armor break. 6 out of 10 for Tony, who's quite the thinker. But all the intelligence in the world, of which he certainly has a sizable portion, can't produce the same insight as raw, war-hardened hand-to-hand experience can. While he'll avoid scuffles where he can, fighting is Steve's expertise. He strategically uses his Vambraces to boost his attack by 50% at all times when charged kinetically, converting his rating to a number that tops the game's highest by 16%, simply from holding a kinetic passive. And shifting back to launch a heavy attack activates a Fury buff equal to an additional 50% of his base attack. His SP1 bleeds for a quarter of his native attack value. His SP2 grants a 50% attack bonus for each kinetic potential, up to 5, maxing its possible sum at a value of over 13,300 if a heavy is charged before launch, which is 3.5 times Doom's game-leading attack and scaling with critical hits. And his SP3 gains a 100% attack boost for each team member of a different class, up to 200% in a War or Alliance quest, up to 400% in questing, and grants a separate, longer-lasting kinetic that doesn't impact the standard kinetic stacks, but grants the same benefits. Steve tops Tony in practical DPS with a 7. Steve has a marginal advantage in health, both have poor natural armor, and both also have enormous block proficiency. With Tony's passive molecular armors, one of which his suit starts each fight with, and more stacking on 1 in 4 attacks or strikes taken, he's protected by an extra armor rating 23% stronger than Doom's mystical armor per stack. With 4 or more armors, his suit is nearly impenetrable, and with at least 1, he can't be bled or chilled by Cold Snap. Steve masterfully wields his Vambraces to shield him from physical and energy damage when charged, resisting physical attacks twice as well as the next best champ, and resisting energy attacks at a rate that would rank 6th in the game, giving credit to Bishop and Guardian ahead of him. His block proficiency is tied for second highest in MCOC, 20% greater than Infinity Man's, and with a skill teammate and holding a kinetic potential, he instantly purifies debuffs, damaging or not. Another 6 apiece. Neither have power control abilities relevant enough to garner any points. Cap's Petrify ability only stunts opponent power gain buffs and has no effect on defensive combat power rate. Because Tony's immune to bleed effects with a molecular armor passive, and he starts each fight with one, he gets a point in this category. Steve's Purify ability with a skill teammate only applies when he has a kinetic potential, and he doesn't start fights with any, so he can't Purify Double Edge. However, because he has a 0 dependency on his SP1 and SP2, although many players impulsively launch the SP2 because of its potential damage output, he gains a point as well. Neither champ is difficult to play, but while Steve's ideal style is a steady parry-heavy repetition, players do need to be more alert using Iron Man. Avoiding evade entirely requires quick medium-light tandems, and chaining different attacks together cause different effects, such as interrupting one's own heavy, which has a 100% armor break chance, with an SP2, which has a less than 100% armor break chance, to ensure top damage from the SP2's Incinerate. 5 for Steve in playability, 4 for Tony. Overall, Tony scores a 6.25, which is tier 5. Steve scores a 6.80, a tier above Tony. Next is Namor, who angrily opposed the Illuminati's gathering, citing each prospective member's inability to rule his own subgroup, let alone contributing to safeguarding the entire planet. He reluctantly participated at the insistence of Mr. Fantastic, but left the group eventually. His ability set in MCOC is extremely unique and fitted with what I personally think is the single most valuable signature ability in the game, one that supports both attack and sustainability in ways that no other champ is capable of. Let's start Namor at utility, same as we did with Tony and Steve. His SIG ability is called Hydrokinetic Armor, which at max level deflects 100% of all incoming damage back onto his opponent while he's attacking them, even if hitting into their block. This includes passives that can't be purified and sources to which immunities don't exist, such as Omega Red's Death Spores and Human Torch's Nova Flames. All damage, and 100% of it. True to Namor's prickly nature in the comics, he's got a temper in MCOC. He naturally generates outrage charges, one every 3 seconds, one every time he's inflicted with bleed or incinerate, or if his opponent is immune to or purifies a bleed, up to 30 charges, and these charges build until he explodes into madness and screams his famous and confounding battle cry, Imperious Rex. Upon declaring Imperious Rex, which Namor can do manually at 15 or more outrage charges by dashing back and holding block for a bit longer than a second, in which he does automatically if he reaches 30 outrage, he instantly gains 95% of his max power, and his specials, which cost 90% less during this period, heal up to 240% additional damage at 30 outrage. Moreover, during this phase, he can generate a full bar of power on heavy attacks at the expense of 15 outrage charges, and his SP2 is fully unblockable. His power depletes at the rate of a full bar per 6.5 seconds, and upon reaching 0 power, he snaps out of his rage and Imperious Rex falls away. 3 out of 5 for utility. Namor's damage stats are average at first glance. Dead middle in attack and slightly above and below the median in crit rate and crit damage. But his notorious irritability makes him prone to the most powerful fury in MCOC. Upon SP3 activation, he produces a passive fury that boosts attack rating by 9,000 for 20 seconds. That's 1.5 times stronger than Nick Fury's fury, and unlike Fury's fury, which is a buff, Namor's can't be staggered or nullified. With one SP3, Namor's total attack is more than 3.1 times better than the top attack in MCOC. But because of its duration and because of his ability to generate 95% of max power with Imperious Rex, players who manage his outrage stacks optimally can achieve 2 SP3s in rapid succession, and Namor's furies stack. With 2 stacks, his attack rating nears 21,000. And with 2 furies and Imperious Rex, which again adds up to 240% extra damage, his unblockable SP2, for example, can be easily set up to have an attack value of over 50,000, excluding masteries, synergies, and critical hits. 50,000 is not the expected damage, to reiterate, it's the attack value. Namor's potential damage is beyond obscene, it's profane, in contempt of a higher power, as Namor tends to be in contempt of all, especially those of power. 9 out of 10 in DPS. I couldn't justify the 10 because of the moderate buildup required for Namor to deserve it, and because how much easier it is for the select few champs who do score a 10 here. Leave a comment with your guesses on who those champs are, by the way. Namor's sustainability and Suicide's compatibility scores have overlapping reasoning, so let's catch 2 fish with 1 net. Despite being at or under the 40th percentile in sustainability stats, and despite lacking immunities, his hydrokinetic armor allows him to offset those shortcomings relative to how aggressively a player uses him, up to fully offsetting them, and to redirect the debuff damage to his enemy. All of his special attacks regen 3% of his missing health, nerfed down from 6% in his original build, and with the willpower mastery at max level, because his armor doesn't remove damaging effects, he can heal from them while attacking the defender. 7 in sustainability, 3 in Suicide's compatibility. Though Namor doesn't require specific attack combos, fully comprehending and using his mechanics requires a player to be aware of and distinguish between outrage stacks and Imperious Rex, navigate special attack timing while his power drains with Imperious Rex active, and to play aggressively if they want to mitigate debuff damage in matchups where affected. So 3 out of 5. Nothing to speak of in power control, so his final score is 7.58, just beneath the tier 7 sea level. Doctor Strange was a founding member of the Illuminati and even mind-wiped Steve Rogers when Steve opposed the group's preparations for a universe-colliding astronomical event called the Incursions, which ended with Cap and Iron Man fighting each other, being crushed to death by a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, and 2 universes destroying each other. That was a dark storyline. Anyway, Strange has below average attack and crit stats, but gets boosted them with Agamotto's Insight, one of his 3 cycling blessings. Hoggoth's Wisdom improves his power gain rate by 16% and regens 1.5% of his health per hit, and Ashtur's Refuge solidifies his armor and block proficiency. At max sig, he auto-nullifies all enemy buffs at an 85% rate, and his SP3 Fate Seals for 5 seconds, nullifying all buffs on contact and preventing new ones until the seal expires. 5.55 overall, tier 4. Now Black Bolt and Medusa, the king and queen of the Inhumans. In my opinion, fairly represented in the contest. Insomuch as Black Bolt, who can't speak for fear of permanently deafening those within earshot, and whom Medusa rescued from Skrull experiments, definitely cedes the pants to his queen, so to speak. Both are offensive buff champs with reliable armor breaks and poison immunity, but Medusa's abilities are more potent in every respect, and award her additional points in utility and a point in power control. Her attack, crit rate, and critical damage are 20, 10, and 10 percentile points higher than her husband's. She autoblocks incoming attacks if possessing 3 Fury stacks, and her armor breaks convert into an armor shatter upon reaching 6 stacks. Shatter lasts for 26 seconds, reduces enemy armor rating by an astounding 2600, enables her to bleed enemies on critical light hits, and disables robots from activating abilities or gaining any power. Medusa only gets a 1 in power control because there are only 10 robot characters in the game, one of whom, Dragon Man, is immune to shatter. 9 out of 173 champs doesn't justify a higher tally for that category. 5.16 for Bolt, 7.50 for Medusa, 3 tiers apart. Lastly, classic Captain America and Black Panther are barren of any complexity or contemporary value. Cap's damage is brutal with no DOT effects or enhancements, and his sustainability stats are poor. But his block proficiency matches Infinity Beard's, and his SIG grants a 40% perfect block chance. Whoop-de-doo. Black Panther is certainly better, the same attack values as Cap except with solid bleeds from his SIG and critical strikes, but that's a compliment as futile as saying the kinda runny turd isn't as messy as the sloppy diarrhea. It's hard to fault Kabam on these champs because they're so old, but nonetheless, they join OG Iron Man, Groot, and the Fists in Tier 1. 3.52 for Cap, 4.30 for Panther. Here's the updated chart for all champs. Getting a little crowded, huh? Higher scores on the left, ties are conjoined and ordered alphabetically. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your mates. I'll give you 3 team options for the next video. And keep in mind the Magneto buffs will leapfrog any other video if they go live soon. Here are your 3 choices. Leave or like a comment to cast your vote. Option 1, the Weapon X Force, featuring Omega Red and Domino. Option 2, the Sinister Six, featuring Mysterio and Venom. And option 3, the Fantastic Four. I'll conclude voting on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, so make sure to get your votes in. And of course, I'll see you all next week.